So can I do a sort of a civics 101 with you guys for sort of 5 minutes or so? Just go through how all this works. All right. So there are two houses of parliament. There's the lower house, also known as the House of Representatives. There's the upper house, also known as the Senate. Now, the lower house is the one that actually forms government. So when we talk about who wins the election, what we're talking about is which party got more members elected in the lower house, because you have to have a majority in the lower house in order to become the prime minister. So Anthony Albanese wants to be the prime minister. Peter Dutton wants to be the prime minister. They've each got their respective parties behind them. Now, what being a part of a party means is that you're signing on to support the party leader as the person who's going to be the prime minister if your party gets a majority. And so we elect our local representative, and then our local representatives get together and they essentially elect the prime minister from amongst their own number. That's functionally, it's a little bit different to that because it's all kind of predetermined through the party system these days. But in the original design, that's how it worked. Now, lower house seats are extremely hard to win because there's only one seat per area, and therefore to win it, you have to end up with more than 50% of the vote. We have a preferential system that allows preferences to flow. If anyone's not sure how that works, I've done multiple marbles videos on that. Jump onto YouTube at the end of this and just do TOPHER field marbles. And there's like 6 of them that I've done over the years for Victorian or federal elections. There's one that takes only 9 minutes. It's how to vote using marbles in 9 minutes. You can watch that. That'll explain how the preferential side of things works. But the bottom line is, to win a seat in the lower house, you've got to have a majority of the population who prefer you over the next best alternative. That's a very difficult thing to do because most Australians are loyal either to the Labor Party or the Liberal Party. And so for any other party to come over the top of them in the lower house right now is very, very difficult. So that's why I say Trumpeter Patriots, they're a schmozzle, they're a brand new brand. It's obviously United Australia Party, not a brand new brand. Technically, they are a pre-existing brand that he's kind of taken over, but that's really irrelevant as far as the electorate are concerned. And unfortunately, they're not looking like a fighting fit outfit. They're not looking like a group that actually knows how to win. We've seen today a huge debacle with their how to vote cards and people saying that they were deceived internally, that someone has tampered with their how to vote cards. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I know that their how to vote cards made no sense and that their initial story that they came out with was that they were just trying to unseat the incumbents. And now that story seems to be changing. The whole thing's not good, right? So for me personally, Trumpeter Patriots are relatively irrelevant. I will still include them above the Liberal Party. So I'm going all the freedom-friendly minor parties at the top, all of them, every single one, even the ones I don't really like, including Trumpeter Patriots. But they'll be the last. For me personally, my personal view, I am a libertarian. I'm putting the Libertarian Party first, probably One Nation second, and then a bunch of others, Family First. If you have a People First candidate, that's Jared Rennick's party in your area, make sure you go with them, etc. I'm just going to go through the list. And Trumpeter Patriots will be the last one before I then get to the Liberal Party, which will be the first of the majors that I will put in. And I can go through that in more detail later. But so the objective here is not to take over the lower house. It's not going to happen. We're not getting a majority in the lower house. And it's probably not going to happen in the next few elections. It's not to say it's impossible, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the main game this election is the Senate. The Senate works completely differently. So instead of having a defined geographical area where we pick one candidate for that whole area, we do it state by state, and there are 12 senators per state. But when you get elected as a senator, you automatically get 2 terms as a senator. So there's only 6 seats in the Senate up for election each time. But what that means is you don't need a majority. You just need 1/6 of the vote. And with preferences, it's possible to gather those votes together as other candidates that get less than you get eliminated. You can benefit from the preferences from them, and you can work your way up to that 1/6. And in actual fact, the way it works in reality is that number 6 Senate seat doesn't get a full quota. It's just the person who's closest to a quota out of the remaining parties and the remaining candidates that are left. So in actual fact, you can get a Senate seat with a primary vote of maybe 2 or 3%, plus preferences getting you up to about 7%, and that can be enough to pick up that final Senate spot in each state. Now, this strategy of picking up that seat is exactly how the Greens took over the balance of power in the Senate. That's exactly the technique that they used, was to just try and get enough of a vote and enough support and enough preferences from other crappy little socialist parties that they would always just pick up that final Senate seat. And if you do that for 2 elections in a row for every state in Australia, you end up with a dozen senators around us sitting in our parliament. And most of the time, they're going to hold what's called the balance of power. So, like I said, in the lower house, to become the prime minister, you need a majority. Well, that means that when you bring forward legislation, when you want to make new laws, you've automatically got a majority in the lower house. It's already there. You wouldn't be the prime minister if you didn't have that support in the lower house. But the House of Review, the upper house, the Senate, also has to agree with the legislation or it does not become law. And so if neither party has a majority in the upper house, then the crossbench, whoever's sitting in the middle, has an enormous amount of negotiating power. And for the last 20 odd years, that's been the Greens. And they've used that influence to drag our politics to the hard left towards socialism, Marxism, and now even the issues that you guys are so passionate about, access to our land and the locking up of our parks and all of that. Well, that's a Greens dream. That's come really from them and from the fact that they took over our Senate.